Hey guys, I had been talking about making a new spoiler board for my CNC, which is right here behind me. If you'll notice that I have no spoiler board on my table any longer. I did take it off. I took it off during my tramming video and I have not put it back on. I'm going to be making a new spoiler board that's going to be a solid piece of MDF instead of the slotted one that you probably saw here before. The slotted one had the slots in it so that I could utilize these little guys that come with most of the Chinese mills. These are not bad. They are definitely not great. They work most of the time. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be switching to a system that's kind of similar to what you've seen a lot of other companies go to. I know, like, I think the X-Carve has it for it, but it's a threaded insert table, and I'm going to kind of show you how I am making mine, and you guys are going to see me make mine in a very fast-forward clip that I'm going to add to this. But I'm hoping to use some of this hardware that I once got at Rockler Woodworking. So if you guys have ever been to Rockler, you've seen these T-track sections, which are great. And in my last CNC, I actually just had these sunk into the spoiler board, and they worked great. You know, you put your T-bolt in there, and you put your clamp on, and you fasten your work that way. I want a little bit more flexibility with my solution. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drilling a series of holes in a piece of MDF, and on the back, we're going to be putting in these T-nuts, which means we need to drill a series of holes. And we need to countersink these on the back. The benefit with the threaded inserts is that you can drill a hole through the front to the back, and then you basically could bore out a little bit more on the back and then put that threaded insert in there. And it is a little bit more of an elegant solution, but this is what I had available to me. I had a whole bunch of them already, and I just kind of bought 60 or 70 more to help finish this project out. But this is what the back's going to look like. It's going to have the T-nut in there, and the concept is the through hole is going to be taking the rest of the clamp. And this is just a 5/16 threaded bolt, of course, and this is the other hardware that I got from Rockler. Rockler does not sponsor me. I had to buy all this stuff. It is what it is. So Rockler, if you're out there and you want to send me some stuff, that's cool too. But it's going to look like this, and the concept we're going with is that we'll be able to put the bolt into the T-nut. We'll be able to put our hold down on, and then we can use a knob to tighten it down, and there you have it. Pretty darn tight. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going to be doing a grid layout on the table so that we're going to have probably close to my 0. I'm going to have more holes than you'll see on the rest of the table, only because I do a lot of smaller work, and I want to have more clamping options down here. But as it spreads out and goes through the table, the holes are going to get a little bit farther apart and a little bit more sporadic. And the design may change over time, and I might make it 2 or 3 times. We don't know. The beautiful part is that if I really want to take the table apart, I can literally pound these threaded inserts out, and I can put them in a different table. So that's my plan. I'm going to make that for you so you guys can see what it'll look like, and then I'm going to hopefully add on some design templates of some clamps and corners and brackets that we could screw directly into this solution to give us some positive stop points. So we'd be able to set a horizontal, basically plane on here, put a piece of MDF that's got some bolts through it straight into the table, and that will become our registration point for our 0 when we put a board down, and then we put a cam clamp on the other part of the table when we do that. But I'm going to make that, and I hope you guys enjoy. And if you have any questions, of course, always post them in the comments down below. Thanks. "23 1/4 inches wide is what I'm making this table. That should be good enough." So one of the things I want to tell you is that we are going to be using some drill bits for this because we're going to be doing this in a staged drilling pattern. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to actually be making all of our pilot holes with like a little 1/8 inch drill bit. And this is going to go all the way through the piece of MDF. It's going to give us our registration point on the front and the back, so that we know where to drill our holes. So that's what this one's going to be for. And then on the back, we're going to be using a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. This is just a Harbor Freight Tools 3/4 inch Forstner bit. Came in a set. Still sharp. Still works great. That's actually going to give us the relief for the base of the T-nut. Then we're going to be using a 29/64 drill bit. This is actually going to give us kind of a relief hole for that stem portion of the T-nut to go into. So this is going to go in only this far. I've already got it marked with tape. I don't know what the distance is. You'll have to figure it out on your own if you're doing this yourself. And then, of course, our through hole is going to be with a 21/64 drill bit, which is just slightly larger than the 5/16 that we're going to be using for the bolt. So this will actually make the hole that the bolt's going to go through before it hits the T-nut. And we don't really worry too much about blowout or chipping or any damage on the face, of course, because like I said, we're going to be surfacing that when we get it installed on our machine. So those are the drill bits that I'm using. You know, suit yourself and use whatever you want to when you go to do it yourself. Oops. Okay, with our grid pattern laid out, we've got more dense holes, more dense pattern of holes on what is the left side of the board, or which will be the closest side to the track on the CNC, and we're getting a total of 85 holes. I think I did that right. I know I went to like 70 and then started to do 10s. But that's the number of holes I need to drill. That's the number of holes I need to bore, and then re-drill, and then seat T-nuts into. So that'll be fun. Wouldn't it be cool if they made a machine that would do this automatically for you? Like you could write a program or something? How weird. I got all the holes drilled, flip the board over. Now we're going to put some Forstner bit holes on the back side for the relief of the base of the T-nut. Here we go. Alright, so I have my initial pilot holes all through the board. I have got all of my Forstner bit holes started. Are they all flat on the bottom and level? No, doesn't really matter though. because when we drive the T-nut home, it's going to flatten itself as long as the hole is deep enough to hold it. The only time it would actually come into play is if there's a large amount of stress on the other side of the surface pulling up on that T-nut, and it might not seat itself flat. But that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our relief holes, which are to handle this neck portion of the T-nut, drilled in all these holes. What did I count them out to be? 87 or something like that? Someone really needs to invent a machine that could do this automatically. We hammer in the morning, hammer in the evening, hammer at supper time. That's a lot of T-nuts. Okay, so when you're done, you should have a board that looks something like this. Mine's been cleaned up, made sure that all these are flush because I don't want them to be hitting the aluminum surface when I go to take this whole thing down. The next step in this process is to mount this, or come up with the way to mount this to the aluminum bed and make its final cut to length. We're going to probably do that in reverse order, whereas I'm going to cut it to length and then I'll mount it to the board. And we're going to be using some of the same T-nuts that we had, I'm sorry, not T-nuts, but track nuts, I guess what you call them, that we had used before to put our other bed on. So we're going to drill some more holes in this on the other side all the way through, and we're going to work to get the board mounted to our CNC machine. So that's the next step in this process after we've got all of our holes drilled, countersunk, all of our T-nuts pounded in, and kind of to the point where we're ready to go. So that's what we're doing next. Let's take a peek. Okay, I'm using a track saw. You do not need to use a track saw. You can use whatever you have laying around, just as long as it makes a straight cut. That could be a couple boards screwed together in your circular saw. However you choose to do it. You can use a jigsaw. As long as it's got a straight edge, you can use that just to cut the length. It doesn't need to be precise, it just needs to be cut. So this is how it's going to look on there. I kind of line this thing up just using this edge of a square, slot it in the table as such, and then just run the piece of MDF right up against it. And what we should have is it should be fairly parallel with the table at this point. It's a little obvious that some of this is off a touch, but it's okay because this is actually just going to give us an opportunity to make some marks on the board so that we can find out where our screws are going to go that are going to attach this board to this table. So that's actually going to be a pretty easy way to do it. I'm going to make some marks. I'm going to show you where those marks are after I make them, and then we're going to drill those holes and get those pieces set and ready to go. But that's what's up next after the board's on the table. So the holes that we need to make in our spoiler board that we're getting ready to do is a 3/8 inch hole. That 3/8 inch hole, I'm going to use a Forstner bit to get, but it's going to actually be for the head of this Allen head cap screw. which is going to go into this little tiny T-nut that's going to go and fit in the table. They do work. They're small. They do have a bit of a tendency to spin while in the track, but we're going to try to minimize that. We're only going to put like one way in the middle. But other than that, we're going to drill the 3/8 inch holes on our spoiler board surface to a depth of about a 1/2 inch, and we're going to get the board mounted to the surface. So let's do it. So the bit that I'm going to use to actually drill the through holes for these mounting screws is a 7/64. If you're wondering how I came up with 7/64, it was what was handy on the wall and it fit the screw. So that is what I'm going to be using. I'm just going to drill these 9 through holes, and then we will work on getting this thing mounted to our table. And then we're just that much closer to being done. And then we get to surface it and start Christmas projects. So when you get all your nuts through, or all your screws through, bolts through, and have your T-nut attached to the end, you're going to have all of them set up on here, just kind of in position, ready to go down the track. Loose enough that it'll slide down the track, but able to be tightened as well. So let's get it on there. One thing I forgot to mention, these little T-nuts that I have and screws, the reason that I bought these at the size that I bought them was because if you look over here, these will actually fit down into the track. I don't have to slide all the way in, I just got to turn them to be parallel with the bed, and then when I start to tighten them, they will twist and they will lock in place. That's kind of a hidden benefit. I didn't know that when I bought them. I kind of was hoping that they worked that way, and they did, so it's fantastic. But I got all 9 of these in here now. I'm just going to tighten them up real quick. Just like that, this board is installed and it's ready to be surfaced. One thing to note is that you can see on the far side, my bit is ready to touch that. And one of the things I did want to point out was the depth in which we need to go, or the depth that we can go when surfacing this board. That's kind of an important measurement because we do not want to hit the T-nuts that we sunk in there. And it looks like we can go about 7.48 millimeters total I can take off before I need to actually swap this board out. So that is just fine. I'm only going to take off maybe a millimeter, maybe 2 during this whole thing, and it is going to be flat. I'm not going to show you guys that part because that part's pretty boring. I'm just going to be using a indexable flattening bit. I don't remember where I got this one. I can put a link to this one in the comments if somebody wants to know about it. This one actually worked a lot better than the 2-inch one. This is a 1-inch one, and it's a great little bit. But I'm going to draw the program up, and I'm going to flatten this thing out, and hopefully it will be dead flat when I go to use it the first time. I'm going to be making some Christmas presents. I'm going to be making some signs. I'm going to be making some cutting boards. I'm going to be making... There was another thing my wife wanted me to make. I don't remember what it was, but we're going to be making all that stuff. And I might put links to several projects in one video as time goes on. But that's what's going on with the machine today. Got the board installed, got it all set, got it all ready to go. You can do this too. This is super simple. If you guys want any details on how big the board is, how many T-nuts it took, things like that, shoot me a message in the comments and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. Hope you're having a great day. Talk to you later.